This video is from one of our first shooting days where Carson and I just shoot the shit and talk a little bit about what we're about. And as a spoiler alert, what we are about is eliminating the excuses that delay travel. We travel for next to nothing or completely free in fancy hotels and upgraded cabins like first class or business class, thanks to the spending we're already doing and the generosity of credit card banks like Citi, American Express, Chase, and Bank of America. So thanks guys, couldn't have done it without you. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you hear about the videos we got coming up, and let's dive into this shit. You rolling over there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, the music stopped. Everybody grab a chair.
No. Fucking hate musical chairs.
Dude, this is the worst game.
Yeah.
This is the worst game.
Yeah, they try to dress it up and, I don't know, make it even sillier.
It really just results in violence. Somebody's gonna pull the chair out from under somebody.
Well, everything results in violence for you.
I'm not supposed to tell anybody that.
Oh, sorry. Carson is very sweet. He's not at all a violent person. He's a gentle giant. He's a lover. He's a lover, not a fighter. You're from Detroit, right?
Flint.
Shit.
Sorry, I got too much brain damage from the water. I'm not gonna fight anybody.
Yeah. Fuck. Man, I'm from like paradise and you're from hell.
Fire and ice, baby.
Shit. Yeah. No, you just did a video where you talked about the different ways to earn points other than credit card spending, including portals, like including dining portals.
Yeah.
And the reason I first found out that you were in the hobby, I don't know if you remember this, was I humble brag bitched about how my Alaska miles were going to expire and I still hadn't found a use for them. Mm-hmm. And you're like, dude, just sign up for mileage plan dining. And I was like, a voice in the wilderness, because if anyone's watching this and doesn't know any of our background, Carson and I used to play in different bands that were booked together, and you know, we just kind of knew each other from the rock and roll
small
scene.
circle music scene.
Yeah, right? And then we were Facebook friends forever, but didn't really talk until years later, like quite a few years later, we discovered that we were both into the frequent flyer mile hobby. And I mean, Carson was more advanced than I am. You know, you know more shit than me.
I'm just psychotically obsessive about it. That's the only difference.
Oh yeah, I forgot. The old psychotic obsession.
But yeah, so
goes
I mean,
a long way.
That's one of the things that we haven't even really covered, is that points and miles can expire within specific loyalty programs. Your transferable currencies, you're pretty well insulated from that because it's the cards you're using all the time, and you're not worried about anything expiring. As long as your card accounts are open, they're not going anywhere. But you start getting into individual hotels and airlines, you're looking at, you know, some of them between a year and 2 years of no activity, and those miles are just going to disappear. And then there are more exceptional programs like Singapore Airlines, where I think it's after 3 years they expire no matter what you do, activity or not.
Oh wow.
So you have to really strategically plan that stuff. But any type of increase or decrease in your account balance is activity, and
right, which is why the dining portal and the shopping portal works. It puts some points into, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but just transferring. Wait, no, that's the other way. That's flexible currency. So I was transferring points in.
Oh yeah.
From like if you got British Airways miles that are avios that are about to expire. You can transfer from membership rewards or ultimate rewards from Amex and Chase respectively, and that is points activity.
I kept this balance of IHG points alive for years that I didn't know what the hell I was going to do with.
Well, you don't want to stay at a Holiday Inn? you don't want to stay at the airport Holiday Inn to rack up a few more?
Well, so the whole story of how
I'll stop being mean to Holiday Inn, I swear. Holiday Inn's rad, actually.
It's honestly ridiculous. IHG ran this promotion where the no purchase necessary type rules allowed you to fill out like 3x5 cards and mail them in for a chance at winning points in this game, but the minimum you would earn for every time you participated was like 500 points. For some reason, they decided that the entry cap should be like 94 entries per person. So guess who filled out 94 3x5 cards and got 94 stamps and envelopes and mailed them all in to this game?
That's so fucking arbitrary.
Right.
94 points? What is that?
Well, the entries, I don't know who came up with the random
95
number.
would be a bridge too far.
Yeah, that's
and
just-
93 is just
We're going
bullshit. That's just amateur
overboard
hour.
at this point. So it was so funny that each one had to be individually enveloped and postmarked and all this stuff. Like this was the red tape of it. But still, when you did the math, the minimum amount of points you would earn would come out to more than you were going to spend in stamps and envelopes. So
What about your time?
we're not going to put a number on that right now. So when it was all said and done, I ended up with 56,500 IHG points and never had a hotel stay there or anything. But then, because of the redemption rates for IHG, I was having kind of a hard time finding use for them. So every year they would send me this email, hey, your points are about to expire, and I would just move 1,000 points from my ultimate rewards over to IHG just to keep them alive. I mean, it's not the best value of ultimate rewards points for sure, but as opposed to just burning all those points for nothing.
Yeah.
And eventually I finally did make a points plus cash redemption at the Hotel Indigo in LA, and it used everything I had. It was like 30,000 points a night plus however much in cash, and I just bumped my balance up to 60K, and I dragged it out long enough that it was worth it in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also cash out points through some websites, exchange them for cash. It's not a good exchange rate,
terrible.
but I mean, changing ultimate rewards, if you have a Sapphire Reserve, you can redeem them for $0.015 through the travel portal.
Right.
And if you transfer them into United or Southwest, you usually get more than a penny. But the funny thing is that it's the same one-to-one transfer rate for IHG and Marriott, and those points are like a redemption costs. When you compare the point redemption to the cash value of the room, you realize you're getting less than a point.
Oh yeah,
less than a penny per point on
on
every redemption.
Yeah.
Hyatt's different.
That's what I was gonna say.
Which is like, it's arbitrary. A point is like, what is a point? Theoretically, it's tagged to the value of a cent, but not really.
Right. You don't ever want to be below that, but if you're really trying to push the limits, you want to go far beyond that. And that makes it that across all of the flexible transfer currencies that Hyatt is the only one that has any real value.
Yeah, like a redemption at IHG that would cost you something like 50,000 IHG points would cost you like 25,000 World of Hyatt points for no reason. It's just a more valuable point, and yet they're exchanged one-to-one from Ultimate Rewards in the exact same way.
Yeah, it's really, and that gets more into strategically applying your points for the best value possible.
I think I might have some IHG points. I don't know. I got the credit card. I fucked up because the first year I got it was one of the last years that they were doing an unrestricted free night benefit.
Right.
Which meant I could use it at even the most upscale Intercontinental Hotel Indigo properties around the world. And
which is a great value.
And they had just acquired Kimpton. And there's something like 6 or 7 Kimpton hotels around the United States, and they're super upscale. There's one right here in Austin. It's the Kimpton Van Zandt.
Yeah.
And when I came back from Thailand, I was in an interim I let my apartment go, and I was waiting for a new apartment to be ready. I had reserved it, but there was an interim time, so I stayed with friends, but I hadn't figured out a way that I'd wanted to use it abroad, so I just did a one-night staycation at the Kimpton Van Zandt, and it was fancy as shit.
It's sometimes that's just all it takes, if you've got those free night certificates.
Yeah, I didn't fuck up.
Go to waste.
I didn't fuck that up, but I did fuck the other one up because I found out that because of the outcry over the change, they added one more unrestricted free night certificate, and I missed that memo, and so I used it for still a pretty good hotel, but I still came out
not
ahead.
at the top of what
like $150 redemption for a credit card that has a $50 fee. That's great. It's the older IHG credit card, which I still have.
Sad. I missed the boat on that one.
It's not available for application anymore. The one that's out now is $95, but I still have the older one. which is grandfathered in at the old $49 rate. So I used it for something that was like over $100, like $150, but the Kimpton Van Zandt rents for like $350 a night.
What's crazy is that you can keep your old IHG card and you can apply for the new one separately.
Yeah.
Like you can actually run both cards in parallel, which is awesome for the people that have that option. It's like if you have the old Hyatt credit card, you can't apply for the new World of Hyatt credit cards. Like you either have to upgrade or drop the card and start over. You don't get the option to run them in parallel because they don't want to give out 2 free night certificates. Where IHG is a little more generous.
They're both from Chase as the issuer, so it's got to be coming from the hotel chain for that to be
probably
the policy, motherfuckers.
What's your go-to on transferable points? Like where are you banking most of them?
I still love Ultimate Rewards, and we talked a little bit, and we should talk more on camera about how they've lost value recently, but I like Ultimate Rewards a lot because of because I fly a lot domestically, and Southwest is just usually far superior in their redemption value. I know some points hobbyists won't do anything other than long haul premium because that's the most bang for your buck, but I just don't want to spend money when I travel.
Right.
And I want to travel at the drop of a hat, and Southwest, I usually compare, but Southwest usually has the best redemption, and they're transfer partners with Chase Ultimate Rewards and no one else. I also early on got a lot of value out of United, and I get even more value now because of the excursionist benefit. Especially, they upgraded their website so it's easy to use. What that is, for people who don't know, is if you do a round trip ticket as an award ticket with United, then you can add an extra flight within the same zone. If you've flown from one zone to another, you can add an extra flight within the destination zone for no extra redemption. So let's say you want to fly from Austin to Berlin, and you also want to do a stopover in, let's say, Athens. I think they're both
still the Europe 1.
The Europe 1 zone. They're pretty far away from each other. I would say Prague, but Prague, like my 2 favorite cities in Europe are Prague and Berlin, but that's a train ride. They're really close to each other. So let's say somewhere kind of far, somewhere like Greece. You would enter, instead of doing a round trip, you would enter a multi-city trip. Austin to Berlin, Berlin to Athens, Athens to Austin, or even Athens to Houston. It can be an open jaw, so you don't have to return to the same city, but you do have to return to the same zone. In this case, central United States. What will happen is, I think they changed up their chart. They devalued recently and stopped publishing award charts, which is annoying as hell, but in the earlier times, in the long ago, they it would register Saver Award availability if you're flying economy, a Saver Award availability of 30,000 points plus $5.60 in fees, 30,000 mileage plus miles, and then the leg between I'm forgetting my cities. The leg between TXL and Athens would code as 0 points. And then
I said FCO, that's Rome.
Oh, that's Rome? Okay.
Yeah.
Freaking ancient civilizations. Who cares? They're all dead anyways. I'm sure there's some people in Rome who aren't dead yet, so but those guys. Fucking Tacitus. Asshole. Anyways, the flight from Athens to Austin would populate as 30,000 miles again. So you would have this multi-city itinerary, 30,000 miles, 0 miles, 30,000 miles. And that's just a very simple way to go about doing it. Honestly, in Europe, you might do just as well, saving your points and getting $17 flights from Ryanair or Wizz Air.
Yeah, easy.
If you can handle the bullshit that comes along with those low-cost carriers.
Cattle class.
Yeah, cattle class. In Budapest, I flew Wizz Air, and it was actually an undecorated, converted airline hangar that was the departure terminal for Wizz Air.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it felt like being in a barn. But it was a cheap flight. I think it was $20 or something from Budapest to Berlin. But
those intra-Europe flights aren't that long. I mean, you can suck it up for an hour.
Definitely not. I do have a horror story though of screwing up and checking a bag at Berlin Tegel to go to Stockholm. I didn't really know how the low-cost carriers worked, so I paid for a bag in advance just in case, because I didn't want to be fucked at the terminal.
Right,
I didn't know if I would,
exponentially more
yeah.
when you get there.
Well, I didn't know if it would be. And what I've heard anecdotally is that if you show up and your bag doesn't fit in the overhead, you can gate check it for free. I don't know if that's wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you're booked in those situations.
That was EasyJet. Yeah. So because I had the option of checking a bag, I went ahead and checked it. Just never fucking check bags. Don't do it. Travel light. If you're, a single guy traveler or single lady traveler, and we kind of do this channel for the single set. We're not really doing family vacations as a focus. We'll talk about it a little bit on the channel, but mostly we're for the degenerates.
Yeah, I like the hand luggage only setup, but sometimes it's really just not feasible, especially if you're doing a long itinerary and you're going to be jumping through different climates. Mm-hmm. Like winter clothes do not pack well in hand luggage. Like they just don't. But that's kind of the trade-off with either basic economy fares or low-cost carriers. Like when it comes down to checked luggage, for sure.
Well, what actually happened was that my luggage never left Berlin. So I landed in Sweden, my bag wasn't on the plane, and it was kind of a nightmare process of EasyJet getting my luggage to me. I think they got it on like the last day, to the point where I thought that my luggage would arrive in Stockholm as I was getting on a plane to Budapest.
Yeah.
And it was really annoying. I ended up having to shop for clothes and stuff and doing a claim for EasyJet and then a claim to the difference from the Sapphire Preferred. I went on a shopping spree.
That's what I was going to ask, because if you were at least booked on something that had trip delay protection and bag delay protection.
Yeah, so it's another reason to book with the Sapphire Preferred or Sapphire Reserve or Capital One Venture Rewards. I think has that benefit in the City Premier, Prestige, both of them. Yeah. I don't have those cards. You have them, right?
I have the Prestige, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Prestige has really, really good trip delay and lost luggage protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I think people don't necessarily think about when they're casually booking travel. If you're just the normal person using your debit card or your bank issued credit card that isn't designed for these circumstances, you have no insulation from this whatsoever. If somebody loses your bag, they're only going to be so accountable for it, and you're going to be on the hook for whatever materials like clothes, toothbrush, toothpaste, like normal stuff like that you need in the interim.
Oh, I went on a shopping spree at H&M at Globen Mall in Stockholm. Got some dope shit, but which I needed. I didn't have a change of underwear.
You needed, yeah. See, exactly. Like it's not abusing the system; it's necessities.
Yeah. But
so you're still an Ultimate Rewards guy more than anything else.
Yeah, and I like it even more now that you taught me how to use British Airways Avios. But I might actually get some more use out. Like, I'm always depleting my Ultimate Rewards, and meanwhile I have like 750,000 membership rewards that I only use sporadically, or not that many, like 500,000, something like that. I probably earned.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I use Ultimate Rewards a lot. I like having them. At this point, I just like having them because I use the other one so little that I'm going to be looking for ways to redeem. And I'm excited now because we can talk about the ways in which Ultimate Rewards has become a little less valuable, but going right now is a bonus on transfers to British Airways Avios through Ultimate Rewards. It's the first one they've ever done as across any airline program. Membership rewards from Amex and thank you points from Citi do those kinds of bonuses all the time. Basically, for every 1,000 points you transfer to British Airways Avios, you get an extra 300, a 30% bonus. And since I'm excited about using Avios now, whereas before I was like, how the fuck work.
Like,
Damn it.
what are these
banging
work?
on my keyboard? I couldn't figure out how to use them, and we'll talk about how to do it in the video. It was a fucking revelation.
And here's the thing, like maybe this is just like the realist in me, but when Chase finally announced that they were going to do a transfer bonus to BA for the first time, there's this part of me that was like, that's really great news that they're doing this, but also I feel like that's simultaneously Chase admitting that the value in their program has diminished and they need to do something to keep people incentivized to stay in the program.
And this is because of Korean Air leaving the program.
Korean Air left. United is going to a dynamic award pricing model now. Not that...
Which is what Air France has.
Right, exactly.
And Air France is another transfer partner.
Right.
Flying Blue, KLM Air France.
Right, and you know, with them, it's like, it's not a unique transfer partner. It's partners with several other transferable currencies. So when they went dynamic, it wasn't as big of a hit, but United being a unique transfer partner to Chase, them going to a dynamic structure, I think, was more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And then losing Korean Air, Flying Blue already being dynamic, it severely limits your options as far as like SkyTeam
Yeah,
goes.
there just aren't as many transfer partners. British Airways, Iberia, and Aer Lingus are all the same thing. They're both owned by the same parent company. You can transfer the points between each other once you jump through a few hoops. They're
Right.
all called avios.
Yeah, so it's kind
Which
of...
is weird. Have you ever been on the phone with British Airways? I tried to call and see if I could get access to more awards availability when I was banging my head against the keyboard trying to use these avios. And I got this adorable British lady on the phone who called them avios. Avios.
Yeah, so...
Avios.
So trying to...
So I've been saying it wrong.
Trying to advertise the Ultimate Rewards program, the number of transfer partners that they have is inflated really just by like, oh, we have these 3 programs that you can transfer to individually, but they all kind of run in parallel.
Right.
And there, Chase is still hanging in there. I think because of Hyatt. Like as long as nothing substantial happens with Hyatt's award chart,
Mm-hmm.
I think that Chase is still going to continue to be a really, really high value program. But honestly, on my end of it, you talk about your big hoard of membership awards. I'm in the opposite scenario where I have a really bad tendency to hoard Ultimate Rewards. I've got about 500,000 Ultimate Rewards points right now, and those are the ones I bank, and more often than not, I end up transferring them to Hyatt for hotel stays because I just don't really see as much value in the other programs,
Mm-hmm.
at least as far as hotel stays go. And I don't have any issues using partner awards to book flights with Amex or City Thank You points. You know, those currencies will get you flights.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the transfer partners aren't as straightforward and you have to do some extra legwork to book partner awards,
Mm-hmm.
but membership awards and thank you points are not going to get you a good value on hotel stays. Like they just can't.
I don't have thank you points. I'm not in that program.
Doing.
Come at me, bro.
That's why we were talking about earlier. I was like, I feel like the whole thank you point system from City is not getting the love it deserves. It's a pretty high value program, and the benefits of the Prestige card I personally find more valuable than even the Chase Sapphire Reserve. So it's a bizarrely overlooked program, and I think it's because most of their airline transfer partners are airlines that people may not be familiar with, and they're like, what am I gonna do with these? But you don't realize that, okay, like your Avianca Life Miles can book your United flight at a better redemption rate.
Right.
It's the nuances of the program. It is not as straightforward, and that's why that's why when we talk to people about starting out, we always start out with Chase program, is because it's more simplified than some of the other ones are.
And you know the airlines, and also the 524 rule, which start with Chase because it's really your only chance to get some of them, or you'll be shut out for 2 years. And also, compared to membership rewards and thank you points, there's so many sign-up bonuses with Ultimate Rewards.
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's 60,000 for the Sapphire Preferred, another 30,000 if you get both Freedom cards, that's up to 90,000. If you are eligible for business cards, you get another 100,000 from the Ink Unlimited and the Ink Cash, so we're up to 290,000 Ultimate Rewards points. And then the Big Daddy, fucking Ink Preferred, another 80,000 points, so that's 370,000 Ultimate Rewards points available just from sign-up bonuses.
Right.
Now, there aren't business cards that earn thank you points, and I looked at correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I was looking into the thank you cards, and you can only get a sign-up bonus from one or the other, as I understand it. If you got a bonus from a Prestige card, you can't get one from a Premier, and vice versa, and it's only 50,000 thank you points.
It's they changed that a while back. It's like your sign-up bonuses are restricted in the same family of cards over a set time frame. I can't remember exactly the duration now, if it's 1 year or 2 years. But yeah, you can't just sit there and apply for Prestige, Premier, Thank You Plus, and hammer through them and still get sign-up bonuses. You can still get the cards, but the sign-up bonuses are such an important part of what we're trying to accomplish that you may as well just wait until you can get the sign-up bonus on them.
And I'm a little hesitant too, because I have a pretty robust American Express collection, and getting there with Chase, I have a pretty robust Chase collection. And another set of annual fees for a different program, I'm concerned about redundancy.
Right. And there's definitely some overlap there. Depending on the cards you have in other programs, the annual fees can start to get away from you. You sort of have to do your yearly cost analysis and see what's worth keeping and tossing.
I have some cancellations coming up, but I want to finish getting a couple more cards before I do, because one of the cards I'm going to cancel is my Classic Gold, which is like the original gold card that I got over 10 years ago. It was one of my first cards. And God, like the reward structure on it is a joke compared to now, and it really just shows you how much of a fucking arms race this thing has turned into.
Right, in just the last year or two, it's really kind of blown up for bonus categories.
But the Classic Gold I've just been sitting on because it's my oldest account. If I cancel it, I think it'll hurt my credit in a significant enough way that I want to get my applications done. But it's a $160 annual fee, and all that it gets is like 2 membership rewards per dollar on airfare through the Amex travel portal. That's it.
That is a zero incentive.
Whereas I thought about upgrading to the gold card, which you have, but the collection of benefits just didn't seem right to me. Right for me.
Yeah, I like the Amex Gold card. I like their 4 points per dollar bonus categories for dining in grocery stores. That's kind of a big spend category for me is grocery stores, and there are cards that offer more points per dollar at grocery stores, but not really in the fashion of like where they're transferable. So that just straightforward 4 points per dollar at grocery stores works really well for me.
Where they're transferable? What about the Everyday Preferred? That's what I use. Right,
so the Everyday Preferred is what, 3 points per dollar on dining? Or I'm sorry, not on dining, at grocery stores.
4.5 if you do enough transactions.
Right, but that was my whole point. You've got to hit the transaction number to make it to 4.5, and having to consciously sit there and be like, how many transactions did I get through this month? Are my grocery store dollars worth 3 or 4.5 this month?
I mean, I would use my Everyday Preferred for everything. You asked me which program I prefer. or that I default to, and I say chase for the usefulness of it, but I was using my everyday preferred for almost everything, and so I was just racking up membership rewards points. And that's partially how I got such a big balance, and I would use it on like $1 or $2 or $3 purchases. I mean, to get the 50% point bonus, which is what makes the grocery store category, for example, 4.5 points instead of 3 points. It's actually 1.5 points per dollar because of the 50% bonus.
Right.
You have to do 30 transactions in a calendar month. And I would, with that as my default card, I could do that in my sleep.
Gotcha.
It was like falling off a log. I didn't even have to think about it.
I don't think that for my spend habits, I don't think I do that many individual transactions. And because everything for me personally is so centralized around bonus categories across the huge number of cards that I'm using, that card just didn't make sense for how I spend.
Right.
Having the just like, oh yeah, it's 4 points per dollar with this card, and even if I only go to the grocery store or spend on that card a couple times a month, I still can make it go that way.
But on the subject of grocery stores, if I could share, I'm so fucking excited to see Instacart code as a grocery store charge. I'm using my Chase Freedom card this quarter because grocery stores are a bonus category and it's 5 points per dollar. But for a long time, I didn't use Instacart or try a grocery delivery service because anecdotally they were talking about it
doesn't code that way.
Not coding as a grocery store, as it would be like a web purchase or a web services purchase. And I wouldn't get my 4.5 points per dollar. And so I was like, nope, I'm going to the grocery store instead. So I was like walking my ass to the grocery store in order to get an extra like 3 cents per dollar, which shakes out to be like, I'm taking up time going to the grocery store for a return of like $1.50 an hour, and who would work for that? No one would work for that. It's like when you see people waiting in line on double taco day. It's like you're saving $3.50 on an extra taco. You're standing in line for 2 hours. Is your time really worth $1.75 an hour?
Sure, yeah.
And it's kind of a party. It's tacos. You go with your friends, whatever. But
you do
there's some basic financial math that isn't really connecting there.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so finally, I was like, fuck it. What got me started actually was one of our big local grocery chains, HEB, started doing delivery service. I'm like, all right, it's from HEB, it's got to code as groceries. Yeah. So I started getting my groceries delivered, got addicted to the extra time that out of my week that gave me. I was like, I did the math and found out that Instacart was a lot cheaper than the HEB delivery based on my patterns, based on how often I get groceries delivered. Instacart was a better deal. And at that point, I was applying for the Barclay Card Arrival Plus, and it's like, all right, bonus categories aside, when you've got a new card, you put all your spend on that. The points per dollar and the bonus
go out
categories
the window when you're in sign-up bonus phase.
So for that 3-month period, I was like, all right, I'm going for Instacart. I'm paying for the annual membership on the Barclay card, and that's all my grocery deliveries. I got hooked on that, finished the spending bonus period just in time for the Chase Freedom quarterly bonus category to be groceries. I was like, all right, fuck it, here goes nothing. Like I'm jumping out of an airplane. Yeah. I'm changing my credit card on the...
This is crazy. I'm gonna do it, you guys, I swear.
Let's see what happens. So yeah, I just did
Don't do it, Paul. It's not worth the risk. Think of the points.
But yeah, no, nobody panic. It all turned out fine because I checked you check your rewards categories more frequently than I do, I get the sense. I just kind of set it and forget it. I trust it's happening. Whenever I look at it, it is happening. But this time I specifically looked, all right, bated breath, what happened with my Instacart purchase on the Chase Freedom? Grocery stores.
I think that
5 points per dollar. Yeah.
If there's some place or a certain type of spending that you do frequently, it makes sense to see how that purchase is coding.
Yeah.
If it's a one-time thing, I don't put much thought into it. But if it's someplace I go often, I want to make sure that it's coding the way that I think it does. I ran into this kind of weird grocery store anomaly. I know we kind of keep focusing on that one particular category.
A lot of people use it.
It's something everybody does. So the very fine print on grocery store bonus categories is that aside from the stuff that people normally know, where it's like it doesn't apply at things like Walmart, Target, wholesale clubs, that kind of thing, but there's another footnote to that, which is little small independent grocery stores typically don't actually code as grocery stores. And I found this out. There's this small little vegan grocery store called Rabbit Food, and it's tiny. It's in a strip mall, but it's literally like, it's called Rabbit Food Grocery. So you're like, yeah, this is a grocery store. So I had been using cards that were earning extra points at grocery stores, and when I finally went back and looked at all of the purchases that I made there, not a single one of them had coded as a grocery store. So now at that place, I know to just use my best non-bonus category card in any other little independent one-off type grocery stores. It's got to be the bigger chains for what area you're in that seem to code that way.
And getting the Freedom Unlimited is going to kind of shake up my non-bonus spending strategy. I may just do 30 transactions on the Everyday Preferred and then default to the Freedom Unlimited. But going back to City for a while, until recently, and I haven't tested this yet, but until recently, I don't think City would have approved me. More to the point
Really?
of, yeah, I had an old medical collection on my credit report that I think was bullshit, but I'm pretty sure that both City and Barclay were not having it.
Weird.
And I thought that it was an unfair charge, and it was based on an unfair collection practice, in my opinion. I was standing on principle like an idiot. And yeah, never do that.
I will burn my credit at the stake before I pay this collection.
This hill I am dying on. But it was bullshit because the way that, and people should know about this, the way that collections are working these days is that they might, a collection, if your bill gets referred to collections, the creditor might call, they might email, but one thing they keep track of is when they make first contact. And I remember being at the hospital where I incurred the bill trying to get it settled up, and they're like, would you like us to call the collections agency now with you here and we can try and explain it or figure it out? And so we did. I had a conversation. I was like, all right, I need to do some more research and see if this charge is legitimate. I think it should have been covered by insurance, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into whether or not it was my fuck up or theirs, which I guess should tell you if I'm not going to go into it. But so I called them back, and yeah, it was me. It was my fuck up. I called them back, and I was like, yeah, it turns out it looks like you're right, so I'd like to pay it off. And last time we talked, you said that if you paid it off in full now, it would be taken off my credit. What they said was you can pay it off in full, and we'll just have it erased from your credit, or you can make a payment plan, or we can do a partial settlement payment, but it will stay on your credit.
Okay.
For the full length of 7 years.
Right.
And so I called them back and I was like, yeah, I guess I'd like to do the payment in full and get it taken off my credit. And she's like, oh no, that option is only available on your first call. Yeah. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, yeah, if we tell you your options to pay it off and then you hang up or don't do that in this circumstance, then we assume that you're a bad actor and it's some sort of like punishment, and it's an incentive that they get you to take your credit card out and make the payment in full right then and there on the line. I went ape shit. I was like, oh, fuck you. Like, oh, you're trying to teach me a little something about the way that the world works?
Just a little ultimatum there.
Are you my mom? What the fuck? No. And so I just sat on it. I was like, sue me over $300.
I was gonna pay it, but now you're not gonna get anything.
Pretty much.
Here's my question though. Do we know anyone that has actually gone through that process and paid it in full on the first try and it doesn't get reported to your credit? And I'm just curious because it really, really sounds like a tactic to manipulate people. And collection agencies aren't exactly known for being transparent.
Yeah, they're a piece of shit. I'm sorry. They're a piece of shit. I guess I'm okay with me being out there on, it's like towing companies. It's kind of like a racket. It's rough. They get rough. And there's a lot of potential for bad actors in that business.
Sure.
And so I don't let credit collectors and credit bureaus shame me because I'm like, pot calling the kettle black. Oh, I'm the bad person. You're a fucking collections agency. You might as well be wearing a fucking trench coat, flashing kids on the street.
Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe we should cut this part out. I might be going overboard a little bit, but
it's not.
But to answer your question, yes.
Okay.
Then it's me. What happened was I sat on it for years. I was declined for Citi and Barclay cards intermittently because
it was an open collection?
I think so.
Okay.
That was what the decline letter said. And in the meantime, I was getting approved for Chase, Bank of America, and American Express credit cards with the exact same credit profile.
Well, because
they were approving me.
There's a distinct difference between open and closed collections.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like if
I don't know that there is, because it keeps on affecting your score as a missed payment. Like, my understanding of credit is that if they will not take it off your credit, don't pay it, because the credit is the kind of the harm to your credit is kind of the cudgel they have to hold over your head, which is why they're offering a one and done solution of pay us now and it's gone. Without that card on the table, all they can do is sue you, and it might be more expensive for them to sue you than for them to actually collect. So if they refuse to take it off your credit and put it in writing, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't pay them. Keep the money. Your credit's going to suffer anyways. The score is going to suffer anyways. If they take your money but don't take it off your credit report, then your score still suffers and you still have trouble with Citi and Barclay.
Then you just go into hibernation for 7 years until it falls off your credit report and
it's bad news.
over.
It's bad news. But it's not the end of the world. Like I said, I was still getting approved for cars and getting a bunch of point balances. But what ended up happening was a year or two later, I started getting notices in the mail saying, call us now and pay off this bill and we will take it off your credit.
Okay.
It might have gotten referred to a new collections agency, or the collections agency might have sold, or they might have just put their heads together and been like, all right, how can we get some money flowing into this business? Let's offer to take some of these off people's credit, even if 2 years ago they were like, no, you need to learn to pay. Piece of shit. But so I called them, and I was very savvy about it. I was ready to pay in full right then and there. Like, that's the biggest piece of advice that I took out of this was, if you're trying to erase a collection, be ready to pay in full then and there. Okay. Because if you call back again, that window might close. They might decide to appoint themselves Lord of the Flies and teach you a lesson. But I was ready to pay then and there, but I was like, look, I'm prepared to pay in full. If our call gets cut off, can you please call me back? And I asked them pointed questions about, how am I going to get confirmation? Am I going to get it in writing? You know, is there a reference for this call? And indeed, as soon as I made the payment, I stayed on the line with them, and I received an email saying, we have received your payment, and as agreed, we will submit to credit bureaus that this account is paid as agreed or taken off. Paid as agreed or removed entirely is what you want. Settlement is not good. It's still a bad credit mark, and it will stay there for 7 years.
Yep, I've done it.
Charge off, same deal. That means they're writing it off as a loss, and that still hurts your credit. So once I did that, I waited for a while because I think I was waiting to get 524 or some shit, but I applied for the Barclay Arrival Plus and got it, and that was kind of my signal that this was sort of a new era. My credit went up a lot, my credit score went up a lot. Right. It was kind of low 700s, it went to mid and high 700s at the point that I paid that off. So there were a lot of tangible effects that lead me to believe now that I could get Citi cards if I wanted them, but before I was always declined for them because of an old collection.
I had one that I settled before I started really getting into points and miles, but it kept my credit score from being as high as it could potentially be, but within probably a year or two after that happening, I was right back up around 700 and getting over the 700 threshold, even with that still being on my report, like as settled. I didn't have an issue getting approved for cards, and then after the 7 years had passed and it dropped off, my credit score shot up like 100 points overnight. It was crazy.
Right.
It's insane what a difference that can make, and it's so funny too that it's such a duration of time has passed and the account's closed. It's like it's settled. You paid it. Like you paid the money, but it's like we're gonna keep this anchor on your credit score for almost a decade so you can think about it.
Right.
Fuck. Well, I think we should probably cut it because who knows how much storage space these things have.
Serial. And we've if you tune into this channel to hear about exciting travel stories and
we're just sitting here talking about collection agency shame.
But this is important shit. I mean,
that's real life, man. Like that's real life that you probably did something at some point, overlooked some bill, whatever it was, some automatic payment stopped. And some shit you had got sent to collection. That is real life.
Next one we do, though, we should do some crazy travel stories.
Okay.
All right. Let's wrap this fucker up. Still recording.